long-term investing strategy. So a lot of these companies I'm trying to hold for the long term, and actually quite a few of them I have been holding for quite some time. So anyways, I'm going to pull up my portfolio, and it should be up right about now. And anyways, if we go over to the portfolio right here, let's see, Face ID, not recognized. If we go to, let's see if this will load here, the past month, up about 9%, so actually doing pretty good since I last saw it. 3 months, it was up, down a little bit here, because the kind of whole market was struggling a little bit somewhat recently, then back up. And then if we go to the week mark, up about 2% in the past week or so. So anyways, I'm gonna go into it, go stock by stock. So the first stock, actually I'm gonna switch it to, let's see, last price. Okay, so the first stock I own right here is Microsoft. I have 3 shares of them. Microsoft's been absolutely killing it pretty recently. They've been doing extremely well past year or so, past 5 years. They've really had some great growth. I'm up 60% of them. They're one of the better growth stocks in my portfolio. Next one's Twitter. Twitter, a lot of people actually ask what a more speculative stock purchase in my portfolio is, or stock holding, and I think Twitter would definitely be one of them. I'm up about 75% on Twitter, and obviously once I go through the rest of my portfolio, that's one of my better and most profitable holdings there. And then moving on to the next one, Facebook. So Facebook has definitely undergone like some major heat over like the past year or so. Like as you can see, there's like major dip right here, and a lot of the stock market dipped as well, but Facebook's really been getting hit quite hard, as you can see right here in the 5-year chart a little bit better, and right here as well. And I don't think that all these privacy issues and such are really going to affect Facebook too much in the long term. I think they're still going to be fine. I still think they're a buy. I'm up a bit on them as well. And if you got in a Facebook, you know, around, let's see this, let's go back up here, around that probably like 150, oh my gosh, 120 mark, you are definitely doing very well on Facebook right now. But anyways, moving on to the next one, Intel, 1 share of them, average cost 34, up about 40%. I still like Intel a lot. I think they're a solid holding. I think they're a solid tech buy as well, and I think they're not very risky. Don't really have a lot of risk with them. After that is AT&T. So AT&T has definitely been struggling somewhat recently, but if we look at their chart here, as you can see, over the past couple of months or so, they've actually gone up a little bit. And this year has been quite volatile with them. They haven't really, you know, had any major growth or any major losses, but they've been up and down quite a bit. And then if we look at the 5-year chart, a couple of people actually are questioning why I'm saying they're still at a good buy-in point, but I think the 5-year chart can make that a little bit more obvious, just taking it at an initial glance, because as you can see, they still are in the red there. But obviously if you bought them at like below $30 or so, I think that's an absolute steal with AT&T, especially with like that 7% dividend yield on them. I still actually think, in my opinion, and for my portfolio specifically, that they're still at a pretty decent buy-in point. And my average cost is only 32, so it wouldn't be that big of a difference. Anyways, moving on to the next one, Apple. Good old Apple, gotta love Apple. 3 shares of them, $164 average cost, up about 24% on them. Apple, I still like them a lot. I really can't see a whole lot wrong with them. And again, with Apple, if you got Apple around that like 142 mark, and even if you got them around that 173 somewhat recently, I mean, I think even both of those are super great buying points for them. I wish I would have bought more stocks during the December time, but it's funny, the stock market drops in December, and that's probably like the poorest month out of the entire year, at least for me. I don't know if anyone else feels that same way, so I wasn't able to buy as much as I wish I would have. Anyways, moving on to the next one, PepsiCo. Pepsi's also been doing pretty well recently, and they have Pepsi. I like them a lot. Just solid blue chip stock. Really great dividend yield with them. They've been really doing well in the past few months or so. So not one that's at a great buying point. Not one I plan on buying more of anytime soon. After that's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola was one I actually bought somewhat recently, and they're up 15% total return on them. And Coca-Cola, very similar to Pepsi, blue chip dividend yielding stock. Really solid returns mostly out of them, and kind of almost have identical performance to Pepsi over the past year or so. After that is Colgate. Colgate, I have 2 shares in them. Average cost $65, up about 13% there. Colgate, if we look at the 1-year, 5-year chart, they're one that I saw at the time I was buying them, as you can probably tell because I'm up a bit on them, was one that I thought was at a really great buying point. They're another example of a really good defense stock, one that's going to kind of like buff out your portfolio a little bit with a nice solid dividend yield, and a company that's been increasing it for quite some time as well. After that is Nike. 3 shares of them, average cost $59, up quite a bit there. I still like Nike a lot. Again, not at the best buying point. Another one if you got around December time, probably a good buying point that's probably not going to come up again anytime soon. After that is GM, and GM, Ford, a lot of other auto manufacturers, which I'm sure you've noticed if you own them in your portfolio, haven't really been doing so hot lately, and maybe are in the red for, you know, the year or the past couple of weeks or so. But either way, this is one that I think will continue to get hit hard to an extent by the trade war, and same with other automobile manufacturers. I'm not sure how hard or when it's going to end, and to be completely honest, I don't really pay too much attention to politics that much, so because I usually just don't care about that kind of stuff. But either way, one that's probably going to somewhat struggle, but still a solid dividend yield on them. I mean, it's over 4. I think Robinhood's a bit off on that, but it is over 4%. After that is McDonald's. Yep, McDonald's right here, up 35% on them. McDonald's, another example, just solid blue chip stock, and McDonald's actually, again, has been performing very, very good over the past year. And if you look kind of around here, they didn't dip as hard as some of the other stocks. And a lot of people ask why I own certain companies like McDonald's, Coke, Pepsi, some of those bigger blue chip dividend yielding stocks, and rather than kind of like targeting growth oriented stocks. And one of my biggest reasons is because when the stock market is down, these stocks aren't going to get hit as hard, or at least likely aren't going to get hit as hard. Now, of course, if there was a complete economic crash, they'd still probably get hit pretty hard, but would they get hit as hard? Probably not. And of course, unless that economic crash was specifically due to, or like the fast food industry crashing or something like that, then yes, they would get hit hard, but in my opinion, that's pretty unlikely. Moving on to the next one. Next one's Walmart. I have 2 shares of them. Average cost $94, up about 18% there. Walmart, another one that I bought at a good buy-in point. This is an example of a stock. I see a lot of people submitting their portfolios to me that are owning these kind of like obscure, random retail stocks, because a ton of retail stocks have been poorly performing over the past few years or so, mainly because of e-commerce blowing up, Amazon blowing up, a lot of online companies doing super well, and brick-and-mortar places not doing so well. And I think Walmart's a good example of a brick-and-mortar place that actually has continued to perform well during this entire time. Like if we go over the 5-year chart here, they were struggling a bit because I think people were worried. Then they were like, holy shit, Walmart's doing good. And then they've been doing pretty well since then. After that is Starbucks. 4 shares of Starbucks. Average cost about $54. Starbucks was another one I thought I got at a really great buying point there. Up a bit on Starbucks. I like them a lot. I mean, I think they're still going to continue to do well and continue to crush it. After that is 3M. And 3M is actually one of the few stocks in my portfolio that I am down on, because they have been underperforming and not doing very well over the past few months or so. And as you can see right here, they had a major dip somewhat recently. And if you were able to pick up a couple shares right around that price, you probably did pretty well. But again, just at the time, it wasn't a stock I was looking to buy more shares of. And honestly, this is just one I don't really ever, like, even when it was doing well and stuff, I didn't really feel like adding more of it to my portfolio. And a company that I was somewhat weary of them because there just weren't some things that weren't looking super good long term. And I just don't know. Overall, I'm not as confident now with 3M as I was at the time I bought them, which was quite some time ago. I mean, if we go back to it down here, I think it will say when I bought them, like a long time ago. Let's see. So yeah, limit buy was in September of limit buy was in June of 2017. So as you can see, I've been owning them for quite some time now. After that is Boeing. Boeing's another one that I'm up a lot on them because I got them at such a great price, but they are one that also has been struggling with the whole 737 thing, with their airplanes not doing well. And like the 5-year chart, I think might show it a little better here. Like as you can see, they're performing super well, absolutely crushing it. Then they went down a ton, up again, and then they've kind of been a little bit of volatility. One that hasn't been performing super well because there's been some major negative news surrounding the company. After that is Johnson & Johnson. Johnson & Johnson, again, another one that's had somewhat of negative news, but still doing super well. If I rank, so someone actually asked me recently to rank healthcare stocks, Johnson & Johnson, AbbVie, Pfizer, because those are 3 I owned. I'd probably put Johnson & Johnson at the top because I think they actually are the safest bet, good solid dividend yield, and I think they're actually a dividend king, so they've been increasing their yield for 50 plus years. After that is Pfizer. 2 shares of them, average cost $33, up on Pfizer, another solid blue chip dividend yielding healthcare stock. After that's AbbVie. AbbVie is one that's also been struggling a little bit. I still think they're at a really good buying point, actually, because there's been a lot of worries. They really recently acquired Allergen, as you can see in this like little news story down here. I think that actually was a pretty good move for them, and they also have a killer dividend yield. After that is Morgan Stanley, 2 shares of them, up a little bit there as well. Morgan Stanley, if we go to the 1 year and then the 5 year chart, a lot of financials have been struggling a lot somewhat recently. They haven't really come back from that like December downturn of like Q4 2018 or so. So after that, PayPal. PayPal, love PayPal. They've been absolutely crushing it. Also another question I got somewhat recently about PayPal was kind of asking like how I felt as them as a financial stock. And I think the thing with PayPal is that they are somewhat speculative in a way, and they don't like have a dividend yield or anything like that, which isn't usual of my investing strategy. But I think their ceiling is so enormously high and their floor isn't actually that low that they could definitely just absolutely continue to explode. I mean, they've been doing really well over the past few years or so, but I think they definitely could continue to do well. After that is Bank of America. I have, let's see, 1 share of them, average cost 27, up a little bit on them as well. Another one that has been performing super well and that you could have also gotten at a really great buying point somewhat recently. After that's KeyBank. KeyBank, again, not doing too hot. So I'm sure if you own any financial stocks that are like banking, some of the bigger banks, they probably haven't been performing super well in your portfolio either. After that is Main Street Capital. This is a monthly dividend stock. Average cost 37, up a bit on them. They're one street. They're actually one monthly dividend stock that I actually like that's been giving out for quite some time now. After that, Realty. I always say reality. It's funny. Someone comments on one of my videos and they say, Jake, it's realty income, not reality. And I told them to go fuck yourself. But either way, 1 share of them. They're one of my favorite monthly dividend stocks. I really like them a lot. They're a REIT. They've been performing super well, actually. And one overall that I really don't mind owning my portfolio because I don't really own that many monthly dividend stocks. But after that is Southern, 1 share of them, up a bit there. Southern actually has been performing pretty well over the past year or so, which is kind of surprising because the past 5 years they have been somewhat stagnant and they really haven't been going up and down like crazy, and now definitely not at a good buying point at all. After that, moving on to some ETFs in my portfolio. So the first one is ProShares S&P 500 High Dividend Low Volatility ETF. 3 shares of them, up a little bit there. They also give out a monthly dividend, which is pretty cool because that's somewhat hard to find with ETFs. After that, ProShares S&P 500 Dividend Aristocrats ETF, ticker symbol NOBL. So obviously, as the name says, it just simply tracks the dividend aristocrats, which they do actually have a slightly high expense ratio, which is kind of weird. So I feel like if you are trying to target the dividend aristocrats, because they're honestly a great set of stocks to own, M1 Finance might be the better way to go with that. But either way, moving on, next one's Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, mirrors S&P 500. Always good to own some of that in your portfolio, about 10% there. And after that is Vanguard, what's their actual name? High Dividend Yield ETF. This is a somewhat recent acquisition of ETFs. It's a really, really solid dividend ETF. And then other than that, that's actually it for my whole portfolio. So as I'm closing out here, I'm going to scroll down slowly. So if you enjoyed the video, definitely consider liking and commenting what you think about my portfolio. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Definitely let me know in the comment section. And also, if you're new to my channel, definitely consider subscribing. I'm going to talk about the stock market, personal finance, entrepreneurship, things like that. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff and you're not yet subscribed, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. And also, one last thing, if you're still sticking around, I do own some cryptocurrencies in my portfolio and they have been doing absolutely amazing, up 54%. Yeah, that is correct, 54% on Bitcoin. Look at that, I bought them right at $7,000 or almost $8,000 or so, and they're up almost to $12,000. Bitcoin been absolutely crushing it lately. And then Dogecoin down here, and some, I don't even know how to say Ethereum. I don't even know why I bought Dogecoin, up 13% there. And then down to Ethereum. I feel like I'm saying urethra when I say that, but either way, I am a crypto investor now, hashtag cryptocurrency. But other than that, guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed.